everyone, it's Rachel Lou, and this is Honestly Anything, the space where we can talk about, well, anything, but always honestly. In last week's episode, we talked about toxic family dynamic, how dysfunction can feel like home if it's what you've grown up with. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a gentle heads up. This conversation includes personal experiences with workplace bullying, emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and the psychological impact on toxic work environments. If you're currently experiencing any of these, or if any of this conversation brings up past trauma of what you've experienced, please do take care of yourself. You can pause, skip, or come back when you're in a better space to listen. Your mental and emotional well-being always comes first. Okay, so let's jump in. Today, we're here to talk about work. Work is something that almost everybody does, a place where you go every day for majority of the day, around people that you spend countless hours of your life with. Some of the most toxic relationships you'll ever have will not be romantic, will not be familial, it will be workplace relationships. Welcome to episode 2, Toxic Workplaces, when the paycheck costs your peace. You walk in, coffee in hand, smile on your face, but underneath it, you're exhausted, not just physically, emotionally. You're doing the work of 3 people, but getting credit for none. Your ideas are ignored until someone else says them louder. You're praised when you stay late, but shamed when you set boundaries. Your office starts to feel like a stage. You perform, you please, and you shrink. And the worst part is that it starts to feel normal. A toxic workplace doesn't always feel like shouting or slamming doors. Sometimes it looks like passive-aggressive feedback, a boss who forgets your contributions, being kept out of important discussions, pressure to always make yourself available, manipulation marked as mentorship. And it's sneaky, because it chips away at your confidence in little quiet ways until one day you realize that you just do not recognize yourself at all anymore. Now, why is it so hard to leave that environment? We tell ourselves that it could be just a phase. We blame ourselves. Maybe you feel like you're being too sensitive. Maybe you feel like you need to toughen up. And we cling to the fact that you have a paycheck. I mean, rent is real, bills are real, you need to eat. These things are always pressure on your mind to stay and put up with it. But staying in a toxic work environment for too long, it can start to leak into everything into your life. It can affect your sleep, it can affect your personal relationships, and it definitely affects your self-esteem. And the truth is, you are not hard to work with, okay? You're just in the wrong place. The crazy thing is, when I think about bullying, I always would think of children. It's something that happens when you're at school, being picked on in the playground, nicknames, all of that nonsense. It's something that I always thought that adults just didn't do. It gets to some point, child bullies grow up and they grow out of it. And then when you're an adult, you don't have to experience any of that because you're not children anymore. You're supposed to be a grown-up. That's what I always used to think. And then you grow up and you enter the workforce, which is supposed to be so exciting. I mean, you're nervous for sure, but you never expect to be in a bullying situation. It's not like, it doesn't look like the same as when you're a child. It's not someone pushing you or shoving you on the playground or things like that. It can be, little things like being constantly talked over in meetings by someone. It can be like the manager who humiliates you in front of everybody else in a meeting and then just says, well, I'm just being honest. You have little cliques of people in workplaces, and you can have people whispering about you and starting nonsense rumors, and it can start to make you feel paranoid about everyone around you. It's exclusion. It's strategic, it's silent, and it's cruel. And it can make you feel just as small as when you were that little kid in the playground. Except this time they're holding a company laptop. I learned that bullying doesn't stop after school. It just gets a promotion. It's passed off as strong leadership, banter, company culture. And if you complain, I mean, then all they say to you is, are you always this sensitive? Just toughen up. This is how it is. Maybe you're just not a good fit. It's always wrapped in professionalism, which makes it harder to name, to see, to tell, right? Because if you call it out, you're difficult, you're emotional, you're the problem. And that's what makes it so dangerous. That is the damage that it does. Workplace bullying isn't just an annoying thing. You know, it's not just part of the job. It's actually quite damaging. It affects, you know, your self-esteem, your mental health, your physical health. You start questioning everything, competence, your worth, your sanity. And the worst part is that you start believing what they're saying to you, what they're telling about you. You're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not likable enough, you're not in right now. But I see it, I see you, I really do. And maybe you feel trapped because you are so relying on that paycheck to come. Or maybe you've convinced yourself that it's not that bad because you've been gaslit into minimizing your pain. But here's something I want you to know. Bullying is bullying, no matter how grown you are, okay? And you don't have to stay somewhere that is slowly destroying you. Now, I was doing some research about today's episode because I wanted to get kind of a broader view on this and look up some statistics. So I'm going to read some things out for you. So this is the main takeaways in the 2023 statistics centered around workplace bullying and harassment. So these are just the main points. 75% of employees have witnessed workplace bullying behavior. 62% of bullying cases result in resignation of the victim. 70% of the time, the bully is the one who remains with the company while the victim leaves. Yeah. Only 5% of reported workplace bullying cases have successfully kind of closed. Right? Only 1% of workplace bullying victims end up confronting their perpetrators, and I understand that because it can be quite intimidating to do so, especially if there's a group of people against you. Like, I can think that, you know, if you think about when you're a child, if you're being bullied by a gang, like, you don't confront them. So I can't imagine it's any different when you're an adult, just because you're grown. If you already have that past trauma of being bullied and you don't have that kind of confidence, you know, to go and confront someone, you're not going to do it when you're an adult against another adult. You know, it's hard to do that. Okay, let's carry on. 61% of workplace bullies are supervisors and 33% are co-workers, and that is so sad that these bullies, I mean, it's not surprising that they end up as supervisors and they go higher and higher because they just bully their way to the top, you know. 20% of American workers have been victims of workplace bullying, up from 14% in 2022. Now I'm reading the 2023 statistics, now we're in 2025, but this was the biggest brief I could find. 64% of employees who have been victims of workplace bullying are more likely to quit their jobs. 60% of workplace bullying victims are female. That's interesting. I think you know, there's a lot that goes with, because this is bullying and harassment. Because bullying itself, you know, it's hard legally to to the terms for that in a legal sense. But when it comes to harassment, obviously there are strict laws, and I suppose that women can be victims of harassment, or maybe report it more than men. I'm not saying that women are more likely to be harassed in any kind of way, but maybe they're more likely to have reported it, I suppose. 44% of employees have been affected by workplace bullying, either being victims or witnesses. 48% of workplace bullying victims experienced degraded confidence and self-esteem. 100%, because it just affects you in that way. You know, it's about who you are as a person. It can really chip away at your sense of self completely. 40% reported that their workplace bullying experience lasted for more than a year. Wow, that's sad. 45% of individuals targeted by workplace bullying suffer stress-related health problems. Yeah, because it just creeps in, and then it's in your mind, and then just constantly following you everywhere. You know, it can have long-lasting trauma. You know, it's not something that's not an issue. It's a huge issue. Okay, I'm going to read out a statement from that statistic report. Workplace harassment remains a prevalent concern. Despite efforts to combat it, according to recent studies, a staggering 75% of employees have witnessed workplace bullying, emphasizing the widespread nature of the issue. Furthermore, 44% of employees continue to experience harassment at work, with only 1% confronting their perpetrators. These statistics highlight the enduring prevalence of workplace harassment and the need for organizations to take proactive measures to address and prevent such misconduct. That's from the statistics from 2023. So I decided to quickly just have a look again to try and find something a bit more recent. And I've found myself on the government website. So this is Gov.uk, and it's just an overview of a basic overview of what they count as workplace bullying and harassment and the legalities of it all. So I'll quickly just add this in. So workplace bullying and harassment is unlawful under the Equality Act 2010. Examples of bullying and harassing behavior include spreading malicious rumors, unfair treatment, picking on or regularly undermining someone, denying someone's training or promotion opportunities. Bullying and harassment can happen face-to-face, by letter, by email, by phone. So this is now the legal side of it. So bullying itself is not against the law, but harassment is. This is when unwanted behavior related to one of the following: age, sex, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, and sexual orientation. So this is what to do if you're being bullied and harassed. But we're going to get to that anyway in the book, in this episode. Sorry, book. I've been writing my book, so I've got that on my mind as well, but don't worry. My focus is on this. So let's get back to the planned episode I had. So here's something that we don't say enough. Your mental well-being is way more important than any job. You can give it everything: your heart, your health, your time, your weekends. But the minute you burn out or break down, they will replace you in a second. The truth is, companies don't grieve. They move on, they post vacancies, and then you are left with that trauma. So you ask yourself, why are you sacrificing the job? You know, why not fight on? And I know, and I've said it before, it's not easy to walk away because, you know, life is real, bills are real, you know, responsibilities are real, but the slow erosion of your self-worth is real as well. You matter so much. You matter way more than any job title, because preservation of yourself is always key. You are allowed to choose peace over pressure. And just because you leave somewhere doesn't mean you failed. It means that you have remembered exactly who the hell you are. And I like to delve into someone's psyche. I like to try and figure out why. So not really trying to figure out what they're doing, it's the reason why they're doing it. Why are people built this way? You know, why would someone go out of their way to belittle you so much? Why do they want to make you feel small? And I've learned so much about this. Sorry, my voice is going. I'm trying to keep it on for you guys, so bear with me. Okay, bullying isn't about you. It's about them, okay? It's about control, insecurity, and power. So people bully when they feel threatened. They lack emotional intelligence, okay? They've been rewarded for toxic behavior in the past. You know, if they've always gotten positive feedback from the way that they've behaved, then they're never going to learn. And that can start from very young. If they've never been disciplined accurately, and they just think that that is how you go through life, and it can really mess up their mind in a way. You know, that's not good either, because that's the human that they become. That's the person they grow up. People also can bully because that's how they were treated. You know, they never unlearned it. That's what they think that's how they think they should act, because that's how someone acted towards them. You know, adult bullies often live in the fear of being exposed, so they dominate, manipulate, and intimidate their way to stay on top. It's not confidence, it's actually the opposite. Truly secure people don't feel the need to hurt others to feel strong. They don't have that in them. Understanding why people bully obviously does not excuse their behavior, but it does remind you that their behavior is not a reflection on your self-worth. It's a mirror of their own pain and their own damage and their own fear. And once you see it for what it is, you can stop internalizing it. You can stop asking what's wrong with me and really start, you know, saying, well, actually, there's something quite wrong with them. So this whole story, this whole episode, obviously it affects everybody out there, I can imagine. Everybody probably has a story that they want to tell, and I am lucky enough to have someone who was willing to share their story with me, with us all today. Now, this person doesn't want to be named. They want to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to say their name. I'm not going to say the places, their workplaces that they've been at. There's a couple that they're going to talk about. So I will play that recording for you now.
So, in my experience, there are two things that cause toxic workplaces. One, when a site/workplace, etc. does well, high management doesn't care how the business is being done, as long as the results occur. This in itself leads to a lot of things that happen which get overlooked, especially when it comes to long-term staff members. Two, when a manager's personal circumstances change and their behaviour changes to such a state that the staff suffer, and then the staff take the consequences of that. One example of the former. I worked in a place where my workplace's manager was a multi-manager. They had no idea what or how we ran things on the ground because it was ran so well. On the surface, there was a very bad dynamic with one of the staff members who had been there for years, and in one way or another had caused people to leave. This person did not cause me to leave solely, but was a massive part in that decision. In the case of this employment, my breaking point was when I was blamed for a job not being performed. This job ultimately was not my responsibility, and it was due to be done after I had finished my shift. The reason I got the blame here? because I aided the people whose job as it was by starting the job initially because they were busy. Ultimately, it was not mine or even my department's job to do, and certainly not to finish. But I got told off by multiple heads of department while the person whose job it was that day did not get any sort of feedback. So essentially, me helping out led to me being disciplined. With the latter, I worked somewhere where the manager got into a new relationship. Suddenly they went from being very available and helping out a lot to suddenly being unavailable. Granted, they didn't have to be as available as much as they had been previously. But this caused a massive shift in dynamics. The dynamics that they, as a manager, had set up from the start. The shift in dynamics led to some shifts being drastically understaffed and under-supported. I won't go into any more detail there as this is not my story to tell, but I will say that if it had been me, I would have been looking at the why instead of the what of the situation. People in the workplace who are my way or the highway in their work ethic and blind upper management are one of the worst things that aid a toxic workplace, as well as putting sales above staff welfare. I have had people swear at me and managers still wanting to transact with them because of profit and sales. I have had backlash from managers full on lying to customers because they wanted the transaction. I have had managers override me on company policy for much the same thing. Don't ignore the red flags and know your worth. Don't let yourself be blamed for something that is not your responsibility. And just like in life, just because someone seems nice, if they're allowing you to be bullied or put down, there is much of the problem.
Here's the thing. Every single workplace will have policies and procedures in place about anything, including workplace bullying. So I want to ask you, do you, in your place of work, know where your policies are? Know where to find them? Have you ever read any of your policies? If not, then I strongly suggest the next time you're at work, go speak to someone, go and look at your policies, go and find out where they are and have a good look through. In my workplace where I am now, I'm lucky enough to have access to all of my policies, procedures regarding anything to do with my workplace. I have an app that I can log into and it has everything written there. It gets updated regularly, and whenever a new document is ready to review, I will get notified and I can read it. And as part of our induction at my workplace, every new starter, as soon as you start, you are required to read through, and there's a bit where you sign off to let management know that you have read it, you understand it. And even though we have the digital copies, there are also in my workplace physical copies for us to be able to go and see anytime we like. We know exactly where they are. And whenever I'm doing an induction, I make it very clear that this is where you go to find them. This, you have access to all of this. And I think that that's really important. So if you at your workplace don't know your policies, please do go and read them. Go and see the necessary steps of any situation you're in regarding work, because you should have access to them. Now, what happens in a workplace bullying situation? So most companies have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to bullying. There's those policies again, go read them. So the general sense is that usually if you're experiencing harassment or bullying at work, you would go and speak to the senior member of staff or the manager, wherever that may be. What happens if the person or people bullying you are the management team or the senior staff? In that situation, I can see how you can feel trapped, like that there's nowhere to go, there's no one you can speak to. And I fully understand that it can be really daunting, really intimidating. But if you are in that situation, just know that that is not where the line stops. There is always someone above. Go above their heads. Seek out the people you need to inform them. Go to HR if you have a HR department. If they ignore it, then escalate. There is a ladder in any company, and you can keep going up and up and up and up until someone listens, and eventually someone will. And it's not, I hope it doesn't get that far, but you can go to the CEO of a company, and if they still don't listen, then no one is above the law. And there, like we discussed, are strict laws against harassment at work. Harassment, aka bullying. And if you're still struggling, then go to the press, okay? Get it out there. You know, there will be someone that will listen. And I mean, you want to make sure that these people do not continue to bully, because yes, you can leave your job, and you should. If you're in that situation, you really shouldn't put up with it. But just know that this, like we said, is not about you. It's about them. It is a serial thing that they will continue to do, and they have done for a long time. And they should not be rewarded for that. You know, they need to be held accountable, and they will be. And I want to say to you all that you are not weak for struggling. You are not dramatic for speaking up. You are not the problem. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to set boundaries, and you're allowed to say that this is not okay. And if that means walking away from a toxic workplace, that is not giving up. That is growing up. Protecting your peace will always be louder than a bully's voice, especially when you realize that you deserve more. You deserve respect, and you deserve safety, and you deserve to be able to come home from work without carrying emotional bruises. So whether you are deep in it right now, healing from it, or finally free, just know this: you are not alone, and there's always a way forward. So if this episode hits a nerve, if you're listening and thinking, oh my God, that's me, just know that you are not imagining it. Toxic workplaces are real, and they're more common than you realize, more common than anyone wants to admit. And you deserve more than survival mode, right? You deserve to work in a place that values your voice, your boundaries, and your well-being. And like I've said before, it's okay to leave. Until then, protect your peace, always. This was Honestly Anything. I am Rachel Lou, and I'm here for you, always. Thank you so much for listening. Peace and love, guys. Let's keep going on and keep getting stronger.